Top of the 5 o'clock hour here. You are listening to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, New Jersey. Number is 973-655-4256. I'm Dan Collins here on SMC Sports alongside Sean McChesney and Nick Flaherty. And we had some unexpected action in the National Football League, the Giants and the Jets. First, we go to the Giants. And, guys, I mean, I know you're not Giants fans, but with the Saints, your overall take.
Let me start it off by saying I don't care if you put up 49 points. You're Eli Manning. You put up 6 touchdowns. You could put up 49 points for all you want. The fact of the matter is your defense let up 52. You
couldn't stop running water. What was that?
You could put the 49 points as a positive all day long, but that was embarrassing.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, that defense, I think this is probably like the lowest point I think I've seen with the defense as compared to the previous couple games. And as we all know, the Saints beat the Giants 52-49, which, look at a couple of stats. Eli Manning went 30 for 41 with 6 touchdowns, a career high, 350 passing yards. And he actually passed, he moved to 11th place all-time on the touchdown list past Joe Montana. Drew Brees, obviously, he had another heck of a game, 39-50, 7 touchdowns. The game-tying one with 36 seconds left. And obviously, the way that fourth quarter unfolded, I didn't see, but I kept getting updates. The Tremaine McBride fumble return, I didn't honestly expect it just by how questionable the defense is. But the one thing that doesn't sit right with me, and like I've said, like I mentioned it briefly before the show and during break, the Brad Wing penalty, just the timing. Let's just say they did go to overtime and lost. Okay, I take the loss, move on. But just the timing. And I was just reading something. He said his face mask was grabbed first before he grabbed Willie Snead's. They weren't going to throw a flag. And then one official goes in and throws a flag anyway and gets in the face mask. That put the Saints in field goal territory. 50 yards later, that's it.
Well, it was the correct call to make on the field. I don't think they went about it the right way at all, obviously. They made a terrible mistake in the way they handled throwing the flag. A lot of, there's been a lot of issues all year with the referees to begin with, and this was just another prime example of what's gone wrong with these guys. And, I agree. Brad Wing, maybe he was, grabbed by the face mask, and if that's the case, then, he has a right to be upset, and the Giants have a right to dispute the call as well. But he ended up grabbing Willie Snead, and that's the bottom line. The Saints, the defense for them as well was nothing special. Eli Manning put together a fantastic day. He's one of the first quarterbacks to lose a game like that. I think he is the first quarterback actually to lose a game where he threw 6 touchdown passes and played as well as he did. But this is the problem with this Giants team. They're very hard to figure out. The defense is a disaster.
And I thought the offensive line was trouble, but look at a couple more.
The offensive line is trouble.
Odell Beckham Jr., 3 touchdown catches, and Dwayne Harris had a heck of a game, 2 touchdowns, and obviously look at the side for the Saints. Brandon Cooks and Willie Snead had 2 touchdowns a pair. Benjamin Watson and Marcus Colston had 1 too. Kai Forbath, the game-winning 50-yard field goal as time expired. Saints go to 4-4. The Giants fall 4-4. They head to Tampa Bay this Sunday, and along with Jason Pierre-Paul, who I've been reading has been experimenting with new gloves for.
It ain't gonna make a difference.
Nah, as much as I like Jason Pierre-Paul, I don't really. You just have to try to picture, trying to block someone without an index finger. It's impossible. Unless
it's a good thing he doesn't have to block.
But actually, and just a couple of history was made with this game. 101 points in this game, third most in the NFL game, behind Redskins Giants in 1966. Bengals 113. Bengals Browns in 2004, 106 points. And 13 touchdown passes combined, around 1,000 total yards. Eli Manning, obviously, as we know, he moved to 11th place all time passing. Joe Montana, 274. And obviously, it's the
sacred name in my house. Don't wrong Joe Montana ever. That is Notre Dame glory right there.
And then, obviously, they're still in first place.
He's Notre Dame?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, national championship in 77, Cotton Bowl win with the flu against Alabama.
That's right.
And obviously, they're still in first place in the NFC least, I'm going to term it at this point.
I didn't even know if there is
I don't even know if that's an adequate word for this. This is a disaster.
No,
the Cowboys are ravaged by
NFC
the injuries.
East? Now, here's the thing.
It's terrible.
Here's the thing going into Tampa Bay. A few weeks ago, I picked the Giants comfortably, but Tampa Bay has been playing big spoiler lately.
No question.
The upset against Atlanta in overtime this week.
Oh, I forgot that one.
Good old
3
Atlanta.
turnovers forced.
Wow,
it was unbelievable that the performance they put up in the Georgia Dome, the performance they put up in Week 2 in the Superdome. You get the Giants at home.
And they should have beaten Washington the week before at FedEx Field. They blew a 24-point lead.
And
sorry about that. And then you got Kirk Cousins' reaction, which with the.
Because you do want that.
When Washington wins the NFC East, it's going to say, "Do you like that?"
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then
Excuse me, you do like that. Excuse me.
You like that?
Yeah, I still think it's fine. And just a quick notes: Victor Cruz most likely will not be playing this Sunday. He's out. Jason Pierre-Paul making his season debut.
Who cares?
And now over the Jets. And obviously, I saw bits of this game, and I was particularly speechless about the way it went. As soon as Ryan Fitzpatrick hurt his finger, from what I read, I knew they were in trouble as soon as Geno Smith got on that field. And I saw the way Oakland was putting points up. I'm like, this doesn't look good. And I thought the Jets were going to really give the Patriots a run for their money, and now they're 3 games out.
Didn't look good, to say the least.
It really didn't.
The Raiders' offense is at a level where it's pretty dynamic. You have the additions in the offseason to Michael Crabtree. They draft Amari Cooper. Andre Holmes out of nowhere last week had a game and a half.
Right.
He did pretty good. And then and then Jack Del Rio. I mean, he's been doing a phenomenal job trying to keep them in there. And obviously, they've got Denver in that division, which obviously that's going to give them a good.
The division
motivation.
is probably out of reach at this point. They're looking more at the wild card, but you got to like your chances of that. They're 4-3. Big game this week in the Steel City against the Steelers.
Without
at Heinz Field.
Le'Veon Bell.
Without Le'Veon Bell, a team that
Yep.
now lacks balance in its play calling abilities. Really, I like Oakland, the way they're going. Carr is playing lights out. You have as I mentioned earlier, the AC/DC connection, him and Amari Cooper.
There was no
Great
AC
nickname.
last week either.
Yeah.
There wasn't much.
You're absolutely right. There was
But you know
no
what?
AC.
You know what? Let's save Jets for Flaherty when he goes on in about 5 minutes. But Dan, going on the Giants though, this NFC East wide open to anybody. Washington's got New England this week.
No
Philly
question
and
about
Dallas are going to beat the hell out of each other on Sunday night.
The loser. The Eagles are in better shape. That they'll be 3-5, but the Cowboys really have to have this one. 2-6 is going to be entirely too deep a hole to dig out.
I think, and
2-5 might be asking a lot at this point as well.
And obviously, look at the game Sunday. I mean, I expected Dallas was going to take all that frustration, and then just welcome Seattle, I should say in that case, and beat them. And obviously, it was more like that game. There's no action. Obviously, then what happened with Lockett? That was a little Ricardo Lockett. That was a little.
It was a clean hit.
I mean, it was clean.
He got decleated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, no question about it. I mean, it was a clean hit, and I makes you wonder if this. And then of course, obviously with Dallas, I saw Dan Bailey had all the field goals, and obviously,
Best kicker in the league.
Dan Bailey's been a fantasy hero to many teams.
He is awesome.
And then make sure with Greg Hardy. I mean, he had that huge interception. I thought they were gonna just grind it in to the end zone, and then just score. And I was pretty surprised by that. But it just makes you no matter how how much crap the offense is, as long as you got good defense, you're pretty much intact. And
I think the biggest problem with the Cowboys right now, and I've had this conversation with my dad a couple of occasions since the Sunday game against Seattle. The play calling is just not good enough, particularly in the red zone. They are so conservative the way they call the offense. They don't trust Matt Castle, clearly. They don't trust him really at all. And, the unfortunate issue here is, as you said, Dan, they get the interception. They get down to the red zone, and they don't cash in there. You throw in Darren McFadden had a long run down to the 5-yard line. A holding penalty takes it back. But there's such conservative play calling. Everything is a 5-yard dump off to Darren McFadden or Cole Beasley. They didn't get the ball to Des Bryant, who was demanding the ball. And I understand people want to say there goes Des again, but I think Des has a right, frankly, in that game, in that moment, trying to come back and get the W. He has a right to demand the football. Just not good enough in the play calling department for Dallas, and the Cowboys have to do a better job going forward here. You look at this matchup against the Eagles, it's a Philly team that struggled really throughout the season. You had that nice 2-game win streak to get to 3-3, but overall not really getting the job done. The Cowboys have a chance to win this game at home, but Sean, as a Cowboys fan, they don't feel that confident to begin with.
But
absolutely. I mean, you're right, going into Sunday night against Philly. Philly's obviously got the upper hand. But, they're in Dallas.
And it's DeMarco Murray's return.
Exactly. He's going to get booed out of the building.
Here we go. We'll have to listen to that for 37 times.
Wait until Martin calls in about 20 minutes. We'll get to hear more of it.
That's just a quick note. And then, of course, you got Sunday night Eagles, Cowboys. And then I don't want us to take too much away from the football. And then Monday night, it's Bears, Chargers. With that, we're going to take a break. We'll come back on the air to SMC Sports. 973-655-4256 is the number to call. Dan Collins with Sean McChesney and Nick Flaherty. We're back after this.
All right, and we're back here on WMSC 90.3 FM, listening to SMC Sports. 14 minutes after the 5 o'clock, top of the 5 o'clock hour, Nick Flaherty, Sean McChesney, and Dan Collins. We opened the 5 o'clock hour with the Giants, talked Big Blue and that big mess, really, in the Big Easy against the New Orleans Saints. An absolute disaster on the defensive side of the ball. And now we can transition to Oakland, and unfortunately, California wasn't so beautiful for the New York Jets. Dan, as you had mentioned earlier in our first segment, what a defensive disaster.
No question about it. Obviously, I can't pin this on Ryan Fitzpatrick. Obviously, it's just a whole disaster. And you said earlier, that many missed tackles, that's disturbing statistics. And obviously, you have Charles Woodson intercepting like 1 or 2 passes, I think.
It was one.
It was one. And it
was an interesting tweet this week that was Geno Smith has to learn 75% of the earth is covered by water. The other 25 is covered by Charles Woodson. And he was as spectacular as he has been in his career the last 3 weeks of the season.
You know what I took away from this? And first thing I wrote down, Jets defense was torn apart. Derek Carr did an unbelievable job getting to the Jets defense. He threw 4 touchdowns, 333 yards. The Jets defense, they missed, 20 tackles?
Yeah, Todd Bowles counted on the weekly film review, 20 tackles missed. And that's just stuff. This is, let's get away from the whole, it was, blatant, a poor performance defensively and the Jet defense wasn't the Jet defense. How about the lack of effort that was shown here? This was not the type of performance that's indicative of how good the defense is, frankly. They didn't show up. They didn't come to play. That's what disappointed me about watching this game. Again, I think you have to tip your cap and give some credit to Derek Carr and the performance that he put forth out there. He put together a really impressive game, making several, I guess as Merrill Hodge put it on ESPN, high-caliber NFL throws. This guy is legit. Sean, what do you think about Derek Carr and the silver and black so far?
The silver and black is slowly starting to get more intimidating in the NFL. Like we had said many weeks ago, they got off to a great start, and you know what? And they're beating the teams that they need to beat. Sure, there were tough losses, but that Jets game at home was a must-win, and you know what? They absolutely embarrassed the Jets on their home turf.
They took it to them. 4 touchdowns out of, Derek Carr. The defense was incredible on the Oakland side, I should specify. Yes.
Because the Jets' defense, I think they missed a flight to Oakland that night, especially the pass rushing.
That would have been better.
Derek Carr wasn't sacked once. You take a look at, the Jets got a lot of holes to fill when playing Jacksonville this week, and we'd spoken about it during the week. This is the biggest must-win for the Jets this season. And you know what? You get Fitzpatrick back. That's a positive on your side. Let's see how he can play with apparently a broken thumb.
Dan, your thoughts on the game?
Well, I look at some. I was honestly surprised. I had the Jets. I never expected it to unfold the way that it exactly did. But when your consistent quarterback, Ryan Fitzpatrick, when he goes down and he's injured, that's obviously going to make an obstacle. And obviously Geno Smith, you look at the way Geno did, he didn't do all that well. And I just think this, like I said, they have to beat Jacksonville because guess who comes into town after that? Rex Ryan and Buffalo. So they got
knock. Who is it?
Big Thursday night home game.
Thursday night
next week. Yeah, big Thursday night game at MetLife. As you said, Rex Ryan comes in what I could only presume is a vengeful mood, not so much on the Jets, but I guess on the New York media, the way Rex had that kind of relationship.
And also another note with Jacksonville and the Jets. I don't know if any of you read. John Idzik, the former Jets GM, he's an executive. He's part of that management team on Jacksonville. So they got some former faces coming in. So
I think the Rex thing is going to be a more interesting situation as that game unfolds, and you're going to see the old style of football that Jets used to play, the very aggressive, more penalties being taken, things like that, and of course Todd Bowles' style of play and the overall brand that he puts out there. Now transitioning a little bit away from that Buffalo game and away from that disaster in Oakland. Sean, you brought it up this weekend against Jacksonville. Things to look for in this matchup. Obviously, the Jags have an impressive young quarterback. Blake Bortles in his second season taking steps forward, put together some nice performances this year. Really nice game against the Bills in London, a game that the Jags almost threw away, but they came back and won at the end. What are you looking for in this matchup for the Jets to get the job done at home?
I look for the defense to step up, especially in the pass rush. You're going to look at guys like Leonard Williams to step up. You know, you're going to look at guys, especially in the secondary. You obviously got to look at Cromartie to step up. Again, he had an awful game in Oakland. You got to look for Revis to step up. And you know what? This is not an easy game for the Jets on all cylinders. You know, Jaguars at 3-4, I believe. You know, they've got an opportunity to be 500.
I think 2-5, but I mean they've been in. I was gonna say, you know, they've been in just about every game they have played this year.
Let me double check on that. I believe it's 3-4 though. But the fact of the matter is, after a crushing loss to Oakland, I don't see the defense falling apart like that again. The guy's got to step up. Fitzpatrick has to prove that he can play. Obviously, we know he's not 100%. Yeah. Obviously, we need to see if he can throw the ball.
He's not the only New York football player using a protective glove this week. He is going to wear a special glove on his left hand to try and guard against anything that could involve an injury there.
Well, he's the New York football player that's using that guard because he was injured in a football game. So we'll leave that at that. But the point is, you know, you look for Fitzpatrick to see if he can play with it. You look to see how the receivers are going to do, how Ivory is going to do. You know, they've all got to come into one because you lose this game at MetLife to Jacksonville, you're in big trouble with Buffalo coming into town on a short rest week.
Dan, what are you looking for in this matchup?
I think the Jets, first of all, offense has to step up. And obviously, though, they were left a little short with Fitzpatrick getting injured. I mean, obviously, you can't put. And I don't think Geno Smith's really. I never thought Smith was all that good as everyone's
join the club and get in line.
But I think it's offense. The defense has to step it up. Obviously, they have to watch Bortles. You got to watch all that talent and whatever all those guys in Jacksonville.
Alan Hearns is putting together a nice year as well. They've got a couple running back. Out of Alabama as well. They've had some additions there on offense. So, you know, I agree. They have to be able to account for the weapons on the offense for Jacksonville. Watch Blake Bortles, that read option look that Jacksonville will go with from time to time. The Jags defense really isn't that bad either. They've played relatively well this year. For me, the biggest thing that I'm looking for in this matchup, I will be there Sunday actually in MetLife. So,
yeah, because you got season tickets, right?
No, my uncle has season tickets, and I appreciate his inviting me to every home game.
You go to every home game.
But by default, I do go to the home games. And that, you know, it's an interesting situation as a Colts fan, kind of trying to blend in and just not get beaten up too bad. But you know what I'm looking for in this matchup, and for Gangrene to have success, I think there needs to be a steady diet of Chris Ivory. He needs to be involved in the game plan, especially with Fitzpatrick hurt. The offensive line has to go ahead and do a better job in pass protection. Try and not to worry too much about an injury situation with Fitzpatrick, because next up might be Bryce Petty, young kid who's not quite proven yet.
And obviously, I know there's not a whole lot of time left before we go to break, but we have obviously some developments with the Lions and the Colts. Some changes.
Yeah, there was on
can't believe we didn't get into that
the
yet.
end with my team. I was figuring we would get there, but after the break. But why not? We can go right into that right now. Dan, as you mentioned, the Lions removing the president and GM of the organization. They're taking steps towards a rebuild, and really this opens the door to Matthew Stafford being removed as the quarterback of the team, and coming out and possibly being traded come the offseason. And on the Colts side of things, a move that I thought was coming eventually. Pep Hamilton was relieved, of the play calling duties.
And that's Rob. And then now the former Browns coach is taking over. And then I saw on Twitter that Golden Tate had 5 emojis as a reaction to all the changes that happened. I don't know if he's been on Twitter. If you look up Golden Tate, he had like the 2 surprise, all surprise emojis on his Twitter. But you could put Jim Caldwell on the top of that hot list. I guarantee you. I'm going to bet an hour and a half Jim Caldwell. After 1 hour after week 17, I guarantee he's done.
The whole team is done after week 17.
This is not
Tate might be one of them putting up another 5 emojis in December. He might be gone too.
Yeah, this has not been a good year for the Detroit Lions, not the Jacksonville Jaguars. Wrong Jungle Cat there. But it's not been the year that the Lions were looking for. I thought this team would be a lot better than their current mark. They had replaced a great player in Ndamukong Suh with a very talented player, one of the better ones of the last 10 years, a defensive tackle in Haloti Ngata, guy who hasn't had the impact they've been looking for this season. The offense has struggled. Golden Tate hasn't been involved. He's been very outspoken, frankly. A little disappointing. Notre Dame alumni there, and wide receiver, tight end University, not representing properly, but I'm sure he'll get back on his game. But Matthew Stafford has struggled. The offensive line has had all kinds of issues. So Detroit moving away and looking towards those top picks in this year's draft class. And, if Stafford is on the move, they might be interested in a quarterback to bring in and try and help this team out. On the Colts side of things, me personally as a fan, I was never a huge proponent of the way Pep Hamilton had called the games. I didn't love his playbook, and I felt there was never enough balance between the run and pass. Andrew Luck had a great year last year, an MVP caliber year with him as the offensive coordinator, but I like I like the idea to move on from Hamilton, However, I'm not so sure Rob Chudzinski is going to be the guy. I know the Colts are going to give him some serious look to be the next head coach of the team. Me personally, I'm not a huge fan of that idea either. This guy failed pretty miserably with the Browns. Your thoughts on that, guys? Dan, go ahead.
Well, you have to look this way. I think Chuck Pagano is a good cut. I gained a lot of respect for him, and obviously with what he went through, and then leading them over that hurdle, he got them to the AFC Championship game, which that was a mess. We all remember that. And
I'd like to not remember it.
And you guys are happen to be tied for first, shockingly, 3-5 with Houston. But
it's just I think part of the problem with this team is they're coming in under the owner's expectations. For me, I didn't think they were a Super Bowl caliber team, but it clearly is not panned out. We're going to take a break here on WMSC. We'll be right back.